I'm super excited to be a part of the Spring into Summer series. As we jump into summer, many of us are heading into our senior portrait season. I love shooting senior portraits. It's a great opportunity to push my creativity. It's the beginning of summer, and it's a great time to create new presets to kind of go on for the next season. Each year I like to kind of be inspired by what's happening, what the clothing, what the style is. So I like to create a new set of presets to get me going for the upcoming season. Today I want to share with you guys a couple of images. If I can get through both of them, that would be great. I want you guys to kind of get my inspiration behind what happened and how I would work on these images. Before I typically shoot a senior session, I will have a consultation with them. This will give me an idea of who they are, what it is that they're involved in, what it is that they love. I mean, it could be anything from I play sports to I have a collection of my favorite shoes. The first girl that we're going to talk about here is Izzy. In meeting her, she had shared with me that she was a ballerina and she was just getting her point shoes. So I got this wild, crazy idea to do a downtown kind of urban ballerina shoot. The mom and her were super excited about it. They went and had her hair and makeup done for it, as well as brought this, fun tutu along to be able to use. So we kind of had an idea of what we were going to do going into it. Looking at these images, you can see they're very bright. I wanted more of a kind of an urban grungy look to them. So let's take kind of that inspiration and throw it into one of these images. So my favorite one is down here. At the very beginning of the day, she had arrived with the two buns in her hair, but towards the end of the session, I went ahead and had her pull those out so that we could just have her wild and crazy hair, which I think fit very well with her tutu. But I want to take this in. Let's smooth out her skin, make her eyes pop a little bit, and then kind of give it that grungy look a little bit. So we're going to head into effects. And the very first thing that I'm going to do is let's do her skin retouching. I know many people are always asking about this. I tend to have a style of not too overly retouched, but I typically shoot a lot of little kids, so it's not necessary. With a high school senior, I think you can get away with a little bit more, especially if it's more of a fashion session or you're trying to push the limits a little bit. I think that a little bit extra smoothing is not a bad thing, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to add a filter. Let's go ahead and add the skin retouching. I'm going to grab the color dropper and I'm going to grab her skin so we get the correct color. And let's zoom this up so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to take the blemishes and I'm going to pull that down a little bit. She doesn't have a lot of blemishes on her skin, so I'm not too worried. But I'm going to take the smoother and we're going to smooth this out a little bit more. So let's pull it about in there. And then can see where that's at. Just in case, I'm going to go ahead and mask on this, and this is just for security. Sometimes it can hit out a little bit in her hair. So I'm just going to make sure we don't have any skin retouching on any of that, and then I'm going to mask out her eyes too so we don't have anything in there. I think we're actually okay, but it's really quick. Okay, and then from here, I can still see that she's got a little bit of kind of a black underneath her eyes. Let's pull that back to 100. So you kind of see it's a little bit dark through here. I'm just going to grab the retouch brush, very easy, and just very lightly put it underneath so we can get rid of that darkness. Just real slight a couple times. Okay. Okay, from here, I'm going to add a preset. Because I already have a filter in my stack, we're actually going to insert a preset rather than completely add it. If you add a preset, it's going to replace the work that I've already done that's sitting in my stack. So if I head over into Faded and Matte, this is one of my favorite categories. It's great for seniors or fashion. It's kind of got that matte look. You can kind of see as you're looking at some of the thumbnails that some of them are a little bit intense. You can always pull them back. Remember, presets are always a starting point. But I'm going to grab the Matte 3, and since we're inserting rather than replacing, we're going to right-click, and I'm going to choose Insert Preset. This is very important. And that's going to stack. If we look over here on the right, you have my skin retouching on the bottom, and then it's going to put my preset right on top. Okay? Now we kind of have that matted look that I like, but I want to go ahead and grunge this up a little bit. So to do that, let's add a texture. And I'm going to go to the more category, and I'm going to grab the Grunge Vignette Dark. If you've seen videos that I've done in the past, the Grunge Vignette Light is a very popular one that I love to use, but for this one I want to go a little darker, so I'm going to grab the dark. Okay, and then I'm going to pull that back just a little bit. It's a little bit heavier than I would like, so let's pull her back. About a 70 is probably fine. And then with textures, I don't always want them on their skin. So I think if you have a landscape photo and you're kind of putting over top of it, it's fine. But with putting textures on people, you got to be really careful about it affecting too much on the skin. So on this, I'm going to go ahead and mask that out. So let's grab our masking brush. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to take that texture right off of her skin. You can see that brightens up a little bit. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so I think from here, it's a tiny bit darker than I would like, so I'm going to take this into Develop, and I'm going to change the exposure up just a little bit so we can get a little bit more contrast. There we go, just a tiny bit. And then now I would like to work on her eyes. So I know that there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I prefer to do it this way. It's quick for me. I will click on the Local Adjustments tab. I'm going to click on the Lighten, and you can see here that I have a black mask. Okay, so I can take that and just mask right in the whites of her eyes. And that's probably a little heavier than I would like, so I'm going to pull the opacity back. So now we've brightened up her eyes. Okay. I'm going to paint out real quick, and I'm going to get that just a little bit off. It kind of went a little bit in her eye. There we go. So we'll paint back just a little bit. And then I'm going to add one more local adjustment, and I'm going to add a detail. So first I like to brighten the eyes. Second, I like to sharpen the eyes up a little bit. So we'll add the detail. And we've got our masking brush again. And we need to paint in, not paint out. So we're going to paint in that, and we're going to sharpen those eyes. And then because I'm going to do this anyways, I'm going to go ahead and sharpen up her eyebrows just a little bit. Kind of give her a little bit more intense look. And then I'm going to add a little sharpening on her lips to make those pop a little bit as well. And it's probably a little heavy. You can pull it back just a little. This is definitely to taste. So depending on how heavy you want to go on the retouching and depending on what you're planning on using the image for. So let's bring that back to fit. And I am done. So there is your after. And there is your before. So quite the difference that you can see there, but definitely an urban kind of grungy look. I think I still have time, so I want to do another one for you guys. So let's go back to Browse, and I'm going to grab another senior for you and do a black and white. So I'm going to do a real simple one, so this one should be fairly quick. So I love this image. Beautiful girl, but I do think that if I can intensify this a little bit by making a matte black and white look to it, I think it's going to make this image quite a bit better. So let's open this up into Effects. I'm going to add a black and white filter, and I'm going to change the conversion to a channel mixer. Okay, and then I'm going to change the filter. Let's move this down to about a 60-ish. And then in the tone, we're going to make this a little bit more contrasty. So let's pull up the contrast just a little bit. Somewhere in there. And then let's pull the whites up just a little bit as well. So we're really intensifying the look here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of detail so we can get a little sharpening in there. It's a little high, right about there. Okay. And then I'm going to add a tone enhancer. And we're going to try to get, I think, a little bit of a matte look to this. So I'm going to open up the curves, and we're going to pull these sliders back. So we're going to pull some of the blacks out. Let me add another one and pull it down just a little bit, and then we're going to pull some of the whites. Oh, it's a little too much. Let's come back just a little bit. So we're adding some of that contrast back in. And then I'm going to do one more thing. So now we still have a pretty clean black and white. I'm going to add a little tint to it. So let's add a split tone filter. And then I'm going to make some adjustments on this. So let's slide this little hue slider. I'm going to go about a 50-ish on here. You can also select the little color chiclet and open that up and select the color. I'm going to do it by slider so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to up the highlights just a little bit. And then I'm going to change the balance just a little bit so you can kind of see what's happening here. And then let's go into the shadows, and I want to change the shadow color to more of a green tint. So let's go somewhere in the middle here. So just slight, right about there. And then I'm going to pull that amount down just a little bit. Okay, so that's a little heavy, so I'm going to pull it in. So here you can look at the split tones. So you kind of got a very clean black and white. I'm going to add this little tint to it. It's kind of a mint, I guess would be the best way to call it. Pull that back just a little bit. Now, same thing I did with the other one. I probably would still make her eyes pop. This girl has gorgeous eyes as well. You can kind of see they're pretty good already, but with a really quick, I would add the local adjustments again, add the lighten, and just make that brush size pretty small and just real quick brighten the whites. So very slight, and then add a detail. So a second adjustment layer, add the detail, and then paint in the detail right around the eyes. Let's get it one on the middle. I love just popping those eyelashes just a little bit as well. And then this, you can do the retouching. I would still do some retouching on this as well. For video's sake, I'm not going to do all of it. The retouch brush works great. So she's kind of got this flying hair up here. I would probably grab that and retouch out. I'm okay with some little flyers. I think that adds, you know, character and realness to the shot, but the ones that are totally flying off, I would go ahead and retouch those out. As well as you can see, she's got a couple of hairs that are on her black shirt. And I would just quickly use or black dress, I guess, quickly use the retouch brush to get those out. If you spend more time, you can use the clone stamp tool, depending on what your preference is and what you're trying to work on. And actually, I can do this pretty quick. It's not perfect, but that will give you an idea. So there is our after. And there is our before. So to me, I love the before. I think it's great. I think it has good coloring. I love her skin. But when I put it in with that black, or the black and white, and that matte look, I think the whole dynamics of this image changes, and it gives her more of a fashion look, which seniors really love. I'm including two presets for you guys. So both the images that I just worked on will have a preset. They're called Smashing and Bombshell. So that will get you ready and started for seniors or fashion. Keep in mind that a couple of things, the local adjustments are not included into the presets, nor are the masks. So that stuff is going to be very individualized to the photo that you're working on. You're going to want to go ahead and add the preset and then go in and mask out any changes. That's the same thing with the textures on that first image. When I took the texture and I kind of masked off her face, you may need to go in and do that depending on what kind of photograph you're using that on. So take the time to kind of add those and, you know, get yourself a starting point, but your extra little adjustments can be tied in. Another one not to forget is the skin retouching pane that we did on the first one. You're going to want to go in and select the skin tone because that's going to vary person to person. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that you found a little bit of inspiration. Those of you that are heading into senior season, good luck. I hope that it's a blast for you, and I hope that you were able to take something away from this. Thank you so much for listening.